We have another very exciting day for Tesla stock following the CPI results this morning and a lot of big news you need to know. If you are currently an investor in Tesla stock, hit that like button so all of us know just how many investors are watching this video. Ron Barron says he and his funds own 4.7 billion in Tesla shares and thinks the stock could reach up to $1,350 per share in the next 7 years. That sounds pretty conservative, given Cathie Woods thinks by 2027, Tesla stock could be $2,000 or more. But let's go ahead and give this clip a listen.
What have you thought? I know you haven't had a chance to read it all. It's a big, long book. You just got it yesterday. But what do you think of the stories you've seen to this point that suggest Elon even knows these issues, he struggles with it, and can't quite get out of the way of being his own worst enemy? I mean, you've said that he is the key man. He's the reason you invest in these companies, and the biggest risk is if something were to happen to him.
So I met him in 2010, and it took me 4 years before we began to invest. In 2014 to 2016 is when we bought the stock. We made about 20 times on our investment there. And then in SpaceX, we've been investing in that since 2017. And we're one of the largest investors in SpaceX.
It's not a publicly traded company,
No,
but what about your valuation?
We have about $1.7 billion invested right now.
Wow.
It cost us $700 million. $400 million of that is me. On Tesla, we have 17.5 million shares. 4.5 million shares is me. So we've been an investor for a long time, so I obviously believe. Mm-hmm. And initially when we invested, it was making me crazy when I was seeing some of the things that he was doing, as much as I admired him. But I do think that, and I calmed myself down, and I said, yeah, I really deserve to make a lot of money by investing in this and by staying with it. And we deserve. And what I thought was that what the point that Walter made yesterday was that untethered, these things can happen, and if he was conventional, they would have never happened. So he's the guy who got us electric cars. He's the guy who got us to space. If he was a conventional person, he was on Saturday Night Live, and he said, hey, dude, do you think I'm a normal person? I got you electric cars, and I'm going to take you to Mars. Seriously, am I going to be normal? And he's a very funny, engaging, smart, incredibly hardworking person. And I remember, so one story. When I went to a dinner in East Hampton about 2-3 weeks ago, when David Rubenstein was interviewing Walter, and they sat me at the table with Walter right next to the stage, and then David interviewed him, and then they mentioned me 3 or 4 times in that, and then afterwards he said, Ron, the guy knows more than anyone else here about him. Why don't you say something? And I said, I can't say something. This is your show, and this is I'm not part of that. And
but you're here now, so what would you say?
Well, one fast story. I agree with Walter. He has to be, untethered. And then in addition to that, when he was a child, he talked about all the problems he had with his dad. And he escaped from those. He would go home and he would read the encyclopedia. That was his nickname from his mom, encyclopedia. And any question he knew it. So he had a photographic memory. And what amazes me about him now is every time you ask him, how do you do that? How do you know that? How do you know what these things cost? He knows everything. It's a photographic memory. He remembers stuff. And so he's focused on cost, trying to drive cost out of everything. Everyone else tries to make as much money as they can. He's focused on his mission, long term, which is to make planet habitable, and then also to, if something bad happens, to be able to keep humanity alive.
Tesla has officially introduced the Powerwall 3 on its website along with its specs. A lot of the specs are basically the same. It's now flood resistant to over 2 feet. The energy capacity is the same. The on-grid power is 11.5 kilowatt hours. It is 16% lighter than the Powerwall Plus, and it is coming in 2024. It does have a glowing Tesla logo instead of reading Tesla on the front, which I think is pretty cool. And you can obviously see it's just a little bit longer, kind of slimmer than the previous version. Tesla's sexy lineup is at the Detroit Auto Show on the EV test track. The only vehicles that are not there is the Cybertruck and the new Model 3, which it's a little bit of a disappointment. The Cybertruck is not there because most people in Michigan don't know what the Cybertruck is. They've never heard of it, and most people in Michigan have not even driven in a Tesla. So I think this is cool, obviously, to let people ride these vehicles, and we're seeing some pretty cool videos of people kind of flooring it in Teslas because they don't know what to expect. They've never driven one, but it's a lot of good publicity. Really good publicity, especially for this region. I live in Michigan, so I can vouch, that is just not as accustomed to the Tesla ecosphere. And here is one of those clips. This is a test run of a Model S long range at the Detroit Auto Show. The guy that is in here has never been in a Tesla before today. He had the child locks on, so I helped him turn that off, and he didn't know about the drag strip mode, so I helped him turn that on as well. And this is from Dirty Tesla, and you can see he kind of just yeah, so really good publicity. The news is going to be all over this today, and basically like free advertisement for Tesla is the best way I would look at it. Joe Ling Kent, a senior business and tech correspondent at CBS News, did ask Elon Musk what he wants to accomplish with lawmakers today at the AI Forum. Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg are there as well. And just take a look at what he does. I think it speaks for itself.
Elon, what's your mission today with lawmakers? Just love?
Just spread the love. Tesla plans to source parts worth 1.7 to 1.9 billion from India. This is according to India's trade minister, and Tesla says they've already sourced 1 billion worth of parts from India. This is a goal for a year-end number, so quite a bit of parts are still going to be coming from India this year. Now, what stands out to me is I don't care where the Tesla necessarily gets their parts from, but this could be a kind of step into. In a new article, Tesla is getting ready to take on Australia's legacy utilities in what would be a landmark move for the local grid and for consumers, and potentially disruptive for the incumbent industry. Tesla's plans for Australia are believed to be broadly based on its model in Texas, where it launched Tesla Electric, which targets consumers who have either a Powerwall home battery or a Tesla EV, or both. Tesla receives 149 million euros in new EU charging funding. It says the European Union has announced additional AFIF funding for charging stations and electrification of ports and airports. Tesla is the largest beneficiary of this funding round and will receive 42% of the allocated money to build new superchargers across the EU. And on that note, Tesla is still busy installing more superchargers. Today, a new 8-stall supercharger went online in Newark, New Jersey on Lindenberg Road. Probably some of the most exciting news today is from Daniel X on Twitter. A Highland Model 3 was spotted near SpaceX today. This is the first time we are getting images of the Model 3 Highland in the US, at least the first images that have been published to the internet or to X. We have not seen the Model 3 Highland in the US yet, and of course the camera glitched out at the worst time right as the Model 3 was like right in front, and it glitches. So go figure there. But interesting color as well. It looks like it's like an orange color. So I'm not sure exactly who is driving this, but it's probably someone semi-important at the very least. This could be a good sign that a launch in the US might be coming sooner than we think. And that would be great news. After all, worldwide Google Trends search data for the Model 3 are way elevated upon the historical averages. obviously, but all of the other categories of Tesla are seeing a increase in demand, or at least search trend data. And if you narrow this down to not just the worldwide, but the United States, you see very much the same thing. A lot of people are presumably waiting for the Model 3. As you can see from the Google search trend data, it is by far the highest one here. Battery cell prices plunge in August, close to a tipping point for the end of the ICE vehicles. The price of battery cells has plunged in the last month, taking it below a key benchmark for the first time in 2 years, and close to the tipping point where the price of battery-powered EVs can match that of internal combustion engine cars. According to leading analyst Benchmark Lithium, the global weighted average price of lithium-ion cells fell 8.7% in August, taking it below the $100 per kilowatt hour mark for the first time since August of 2021.
Dad,
Tesla to the moon.
Tesla moon.
She just comes in like a wrecking ball. But this article does go on to say, importantly, it is not far from the US $80 per kilowatt hour cell price that is crucial to delivering a 100 kilowatt hour battery pack, the level that is considered a tipping point because it will allow EV makers to build electric cars that cost the same as petrol and diesel alternatives. The price of lithium battery cells has fallen 80% in the past decade and will continue to fall as they deliver better performance. That is why the death of the internal combustion engine is near. Last but not least, Volkswagen eyes job cuts at its Zwickau plant on low electric car demand. It says more than 2,000 people that work at the factory are on a fixed term contract out of 10,700 employees total. And it does go on to say that Volkswagen might let a few hundred employees at the end of October just let their contracts expire and not renew them. They cite competition from Tesla and other local Chinese automakers that have really gained traction over the past couple of years. BYD, Li, NIO, XPeng, so on and so forth, as the main reason why they just don't need as many workers for this plant. Their production is low, their demand is low. That's a problem for Volkswagen and really for Germany as a whole. Tesla stock today is up 1.76% following even hotter than expected inflation. Core inflation month over month came in at 0.3%. Markets were expecting 0.2%. And a matter of fact, we made a video on this last night, and I said there was about a 30% chance this would come in at 0.3% or higher. This was even higher than any of your major banks were forecasting. Besides Citigroup, they were at 0.25%, and it would have gotten rounded up. So I guess Citigroup was the winner as far as predicting CPI. But it wasn't really expected nonetheless. But why I think the markets are doing okay today is because your average hourly earnings went down about 0.5%. That is really good for this whole narrative of wages feeding into higher inflation and higher prices. But also the markets have been pretty weak over the past couple of days anyways, so it's not like we're coming off of a rally per se. We've kind of already been falling, so it's like a little bit of that relief bounce. Tomorrow's economic data is going to be, I think, even more important than the CPI report, which I probably will never say ever again, and we'll talk about that in the next video coming out later tonight. But as far as the rest of the inflation data, inflation year over year came in a little bit hot as well on your headline at 3.7%. Markets were expecting 3.6%. Month-over-month inflation on the headline came in at 0.6%. That was in line with expectations. And your core inflation rate year over year was in line with expectations as well, coming in at 4.3%. You were expecting 4.7%. 4.7% was the reading from last month. So it actually came in line exactly with expectations. So not huge shockers here, but inflation a little bit hotter than we were expecting on your core. This did not really move around your expectations for a rate hike coming on September 20th. It's a 98% chance that we get a pause in September, so no rate hike. But November and December, the odds of rate hikes definitely increased. So if you look right here, the previous day probability of a rate hike in November was 38.5% chance. Today, it's 42.6% chance. So it's still not priced in by the markets. We're still not expecting a hike in November, but it's getting pretty close to a coin toss. Same thing for December. The probability for a rate hike in December was 39.7% yesterday, and today it's 43.5%. The odds or the probability of getting 2 rate hikes, it looks like, was actually 5% yesterday, and that actually fell to 3.4% today. So that's actually good news. Some people expecting at least 1 rate hike, but not very many people are expecting 2 more rate hikes by the end of this year. Short positions in Tesla currently stand at $22.24 billion. So this number is up about $3 billion in the course of this week alone, following mostly that 10% rally that we've seen on Monday. The option activity today is extremely bullish. 983 orders totaling $508.81 million with a positive order value of 85%. If we blow up the options for this week on the bubble chart, a lot of this activity today is around the 280 call. And you're seeing volume of 95,000 and open interest of 41,000. Another big strike as far as activity is the 275 call, and that has volume of the day today of 117,000 with open interest of 22,000. So whenever you see the volume multiples greater than the open interest on any given day, that's a pretty good sign you're getting a lot of bullish position taking. And with a positive order value of 85%, by far the most bullish positioning we've seen it in a long time. So maybe someone somewhere knows something on Tesla, or maybe people are just encouraged by the CPI report not being even hotter than it came out as. You know, we could have got some really bad numbers. Maybe people are excited for that front as well. But unfortunately, the retail sales coming tomorrow and the data overnight tonight in Japan is going to be equally, if not more important than the CPI. The 10-year Treasury yield is down 1.5 basis points today, as well as the 2-year Treasury, that is down about 2.5 basis points today. The yield curve inversion on the 10 and 2-year is now at negative 0.71%. So you're starting to go higher on this chart. And like we've talked about many times, when you go from inverted deeply and you hit that bottom and then you start to get uninverted, that's where the pain usually happens for the markets. And same story here with the 10-year and 3-month yield curve inversion. As you can see, these gray bars are recessions. Well, before a recession, you're inverted. Right before a recession, you uninvert every time. And that's typically where the pain starts in the markets, right before that ultimate recession. I can certainly see why a lot of option buyers are bullish today on Tesla stock. If you look at the RSI looks strong as a bull at 60.77. Really couldn't ask for much better than that heading into a potential breakout. The MACD is extremely bullish as well, just went into positive territory. Anytime historically this has happened, from being oversold, you have went through parabolic rallies with Tesla stock. We're talking $50 to $100 plus rallies. And this time, you're back almost to a new high of 2023 at the time where the MACD just went bullish. So that is probably the strongest technical indicator right now that says, hey, we're probably going to go through an even larger rally. Now, on top of that, this longer trend, downtrending line, right? This longer term resistance line, let's call it, from the peaks of November of 2021, January of 2022, and April of 2022. You hit these peaks perfectly. You came down a lot over the course of those basically 2 years now, and you broke above this right before earnings. And this is something we were talking about right before earnings, that if earnings were good and Tesla stayed above this level, then you're probably headed to the mid threes. Well, now you're retesting this level again. And this is not just a line on the chart. A lot of trading programs and trading algorithms are based on some of these long-term lines, right? Long-term resistance levels. Just look at the price action of Tesla stock at this level, right? You've got rejected the last 3 days right at this level, but you're also holding support above 265 pretty perfectly after this gap up that you did see on Monday. So it's not going to take a lot from here to get Tesla above this line, and above this line, that's where you really go into no man's land as far as potential upside, and you could rocket well into the threes, if not 350 or even close to all-time highs, considering if we get the Cybertruck launch, the Model 3 launch in the US, if we continue to see Tesla putting up good numbers. And there's a plethora of other catalysts or events that could drive Tesla stock higher, like a price increase of the Model Y in China, in which it's highly speculated that we will see in the month of October. As you can see, markets currently are extremely volatile, doing a Rey Mysterio off the top ropes here, and trying to test the lows of the day. This is heading into the last half an hour or so of trading here today. I think this just shows how volatile tomorrow's data point is going to be, and it really has the potential to move the markets quite dramatically. Look at this end of the day move that we are seeing. So you definitely want to stay up to date with the information that's going to be coming out later today in the video around 9 p.m. tonight. Subscribe to the channel, hit the like button so you don't miss it. If you guys want to come trade with us live in real time, link down below in the description of this video as well. Most importantly, enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.